I never thought a simple trip to a corporate office would change my life, or anyone else's forever. I remember walking into the lobby of that towering glass building, the kind you see in movies, feeling small and out of place. I was nervous, sweaty, palmed, wondering if anyone there would even glance at someone like me and take me seriously. I had my daughter with me, a bright little girl with eyes too big for her face and a smile that could make the grimmest day feel sunny. I had raised her alone after her mother left when she was barely a baby. I never told her how hard it was, how often I worried, but she seemed to sense it somehow, as children do, because she always held my hand a little tighter on days like this. And today, of all days, I was hoping that a simple meeting could finally open doors for her. Doors that had been shut for too long, doors that I didn't know how to pry open. I was ushered into the CEO office. She was sitting behind an enormous mahogany desk that gleamed under the fluorescent lights, the kind of desk that demanded respect and authority. I had never seen anyone like her before, confident, impeccably dressed, and seemingly untouchable. On her desk, there was a photograph. At first, I didn't pay much attention to it. Just a smiling woman with a small child, perhaps her daughter. But as my eyes lingered, my stomach dropped. The little boy in the photo, that little boy looked exactly like my daughter's younger brother, who I had lost tragically years ago in a way that still made my heart ache. It was uncanny, almost supernatural. I felt the blood rush to my face, my heart hammering against my chest. I knew I had to say something. I pointed at the photograph and whispered, almost not believing my own voice, "That's my son." And suddenly, the room went quiet. She looked at me like I had lost my mind. Her perfectly painted lips parted, but no words came out. I could feel my daughter tug at my sleeve, sensing the tension, and I realized that this moment, this instant, was about to shatter both our lives in ways I couldn't have imagined. I asked her, my voice trembling but resolute, "Do you know what you have in front of you? Do you know whose child this is?" She swallowed hard and shook her head, her confident facade cracking just slightly, the first real human moment I had seen in her entire persona. And I felt it, the raw, shocking power of truth in a world that pretends not to notice the people it ignores. Tell me, would you have reacted any differently if the world had kept pushing you aside for years? If people had assumed you didn't belong because of the color of your skin, because you were a single father struggling to survive? But let me take you back to the beginning, because this isn't just about that moment in the CEO office. It's about the life that led me there, the battles fought quietly, the humiliation endured, and the perseverance that even I sometimes doubted I had. I grew up in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce, and being black meant people already had a story about who I was before they ever met me. My own father had taught me to be proud, to hold my head high, but even he warned me that the world wouldn't be kind. When I became a father myself, everything changed. I had this beautiful girl, and I wanted her to have everything I never had. But life doesn't hand out fairness. It only gives moments of grace, and sometimes those moments are hard to recognize until they hit you like a lightning strike. Raising my daughter alone was a challenge I hadn't anticipated. There were nights I cried into my pillow because I didn't know if I was doing enough. I worked multiple jobs, often coming home exhausted, just to make sure she never went without. I watched her grow, her laughter echoing in our small apartment, her curiosity insatiable, and I knew that one day the world would test her too. I wanted to protect her, but I knew I couldn't shield her from everything. I told myself that if I could just find one opportunity, one person willing to see beyond the surface, maybe I could give her a chance at something bigger, something I had been denied. And that's why I walked into that office. I had heard about the CEO through a friend, someone who had managed to land a meeting because of connections I didn't have. I didn't care about the connections. I cared about the opportunity. I wanted to show her that my daughter had potential, that she deserved a shot at education, mentorship, and the world she had never experienced. When we entered, I could feel the weight of the room pressing down on us, the way the air seems thicker in spaces designed to intimidate. My daughter clutched my hand and I squeezed back, giving her the silent assurance that we belonged there, even if the world had told us otherwise. As we approached the desk, I tried to remain calm. I explained who we were, our background, our struggles, and our aspirations. I spoke with passion, my words spilling out like a dam breaking, and I could see her eyes narrow slightly, as if she were evaluating every syllable. I knew that this wasn't just about credentials or experience. It was about perception, about whether she could see us as humans rather than as statistic. And then I saw it, the photograph, my breath caught. I don't know why I noticed it first, the subconscious mind is funny that way. But when I did, it hit me like a punch. There, on her pristine desk, was a smiling child whose face mirrored a part of my own family history. A part I thought I would never see again. I pointed, my finger trembling, and said the words that would change the room forever. "That's my son." Her eyes widened, the color draining from her face, and I could feel the tension crackling like electricity. My daughter, sensing the shift, looked up at me with wide eyes, and in that moment, she did something I will never forget. She stepped forward, her small voice breaking through the silence. "Mom." It was just a word, a single word, but it carried the weight of decades of misunderstanding, of absence, of longing. The CEO froze. Her perfectly poised world shattered in an instant because she realized, perhaps for the first time, that life doesn't always fit the neat narratives we create. I could see it in her face, shock, disbelief, and a dawning realization that the decisions she had made, the assumptions she had held, were about to be confronted with undeniable truth. My daughter repeated herself, this time louder, "Mom," and the room fell into a silence so deep that even the humming of the fluorescent lights seemed intrusive. I wanted to speak, to explain, to fill the void with words, but nothing could match the gravity of that moment. The truth had a way of speaking louder than any speech, louder than any explanation. I had never felt so powerless and yet so powerful at the same time. So here's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. I could either let this moment pass, allow it to be a fleeting shock that faded into forgetfulness, or I could step forward and claim the recognition, the justice, and the acknowledgement that my family deserved. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and think. If you were me, if you had raised a child alone, if you had faced every systemic obstacle imaginable, if you were confronted with undeniable evidence that the world had overlooked you, what would you do? Would you fight? Would you walk away? Or would you take a risk so bold that it could either destroy you or change everything? I chose to speak. I explained the connection, the history, and the truth that had been hidden beneath layers of assumptions. I told her about my family, about my struggles, about the loss and the love that had shaped us. My voice shook. My daughter clung to me, but I spoke with unwavering honesty. And as I spoke, I saw her begin to understand, to see us not as intruders or interlopers, but as human beings with stories that mattered. The atmosphere in the room shifted subtly, imperceptibly at first, then more tangibly. She was no longer the untouchable executive. She was a mother, a human, confronted with a reality she hadn't prepared for. The climax came quietly, yet it was earth-shattering. She asked questions, hesitant at first, then more urgently. My daughter answered with a mix of innocence and bravery, revealing truths about our family, our lives, and our pain. And then, in a moment I will never forget, she took my daughter into her arms, tears brimming in her eyes, and whispered apologies that words could scarcely capture. I realized then that the world isn't always cruel. Sometimes, it just requires confrontation, honesty, and courage to reveal the human truths that prejudice tries to hide. The aftermath was both emotional and transformative. Doors that had been closed swung open, opportunities materialized, and relationships were repaired not just for us, but for her as well. She learned, as we all do eventually, that humanity cannot be contained by office walls or social hierarchies. This story left a mark on everyone involved. My daughter gained confidence beyond her years, understanding the power of truth and the strength of her own voice. I gained a renewed sense of hope and justice, realizing that courage and honesty can break barriers even in the most unexpected places. The CEO, forever changed by the confrontation, began to reevaluate the assumptions she held, the biases she didn't even know existed within her. And I, a single father navigating a world that often refuses to see me, understood that the most profound victories are not always loud. They are the quiet affirmations of truth, the moments when humanity reveals itself, unmasked and undeniable. In the end, this experience taught me that no matter how powerful someone seems, no matter how rigid the walls of authority or status, the truth has a way of piercing through. It reminded me that courage, honesty, and persistence are the tools we all possess, even if we are taught to doubt them. And it showed me that sometimes the most profound lessons come not from books or lectures, but from the raw, unfiltered moments of life when we confront reality head on. If this story touched you, if you felt the weight of the emotions, the shock, and the ultimate triumph, I want you to do 3 things. Like this video if you were on my side, subscribe for more stories that reveal the hidden truths behind the challenges of racism and human resilience, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Your voice matters just as much as the truth we fought to reveal that day. Thank you for listening, for witnessing this moment with us, and I'll see you all in the next story.